Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be testing the Witcher franchise on the GeForce GT 1030. For performance monitoring, I'll be using CAM. If you want to download the software, there's a link down in the description. So the Witcher franchise, I'll be doing the Witcher 1, 2 and 3. To skip at those particular games, just check the timestamps down in the description. So well, first of all, I'll start with the Witcher 1. And so far this one, since it's using a very old engine from BioWare, it won't allow you to use your card at its maximum potential, especially in the swamp areas with a lot of trees, a lot of foliage, all that kind of stuff. The game will easily drop below 60 frames per second. Even if you lower it to 720p, it will still happen. The GPU usage just drops. Still is a completely playable experience. You can even crank it up to 1440p if you want. You'll get like 30 to 40 FPS. But the combat on this one is not like on Witcher 2 and 3. It's more like a point and click thing, like an old PC game. So you just have to click on enemies at the correct time in order to chain more attacks. So I don't think that 60 frames per second here so necessary, but since this is an old PC game, it's kinda rougher compared to the next ones, to be expected. But if you're fine with that, just play this one. The story is very good. I'm going to talk to you again on the Witcher 2. Now I'm testing The Witcher 2. CD Projekt Red made its own engine compared to the previous one, which was an engine from BioWare. And on this one it's also very difficult to get 60 frames per second. There are some very demanding options here. So I first show you 1080p targeting 30 frames per second, or as close to that as possible. And then I just lowered the resolution to 720p, maintaining the same settings. Since the settings I made are like a balance between quality and performance, so the game still looks pretty good and the performance should be decent enough. Just don't enable oversampling or cinematic depth of field. Those things destroy performance in this game. But yeah, this one is much better to control than The Witcher 1. It's a very different game. You can play with mouse and keyboard if you want, but a gamepad, at least in my opinion, felt better here. But yeah, another game that has a great story. I recommend you play it if you didn't. It's very cheap on Good Old Games, which is the website from CD Projekt, and it's also very cheap on Steam sales as well. But unfortunately, it's not the best performing game out there. It had a lot of problems in the past. It still has some, but with the more powerful hardware we have nowadays, it's much easier to run. But yeah, performance is not perfect, but I still recommend it. I'll talk to you again in the next game.
That ballista would do the trick.
Kill the Witcher! Kill the Witcher! Kill the Witcher!
Lord Suxon, you shall push for the center aisle and bring down that gate.
Follow me, gentlemen! For Temeria!
Lord Swan!
Yes.
Get up! Fall back, God! They've taken a good position, the bastards! If this persists...
That ballista would do the trick.
Kill the Witcher! Kill the Witcher!
And finally The Witcher 3. On this one I'll show you 3 resolutions, 1080p, 900p and 720p, just going on horseback to Novigrad since it's one of the most demanding places in the whole game, and I'll try to show you 30 FPS configurations for all those 3 resolutions, since even at 720p lowest settings I wasn't able to maintain anywhere close 60 frames per second, but on 1080p I very usually get drops below 30, so if you want to play at this resolution, maybe consider overclocking the GT 1030. You should be able to gain a couple extra frames. It won't be perfect, but it should still be borderline playable. Then on 900p I crank up the settings a little bit, trying to maintain once again over 30 frames per second, much more stable than 1080p obviously because it's a lower resolution, and at 720p I was able to use much higher quality than the other resolutions. I just lowered shadows and foliage visibility range from ultra to high, and that was enough to maintain pretty much over 30 frames per second. So yeah, on this one I recommend 900p or 720p depending on what settings you want to use. This one looks great, it's a fantastic game, the expansions are also a lot of fun. So here we're talking about 30 plus hours of gameplay with very well designed side missions as well. Very cheap on Steam sales or Good Old Games sales. This should be cheaper than $25 with all the DLC when on a sale. I recommend you check that out. But yeah guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this video, thanks for watching and see you next time.
Oh, what a smack!
Ah!
From now on, assume your every move's observed.
Oh!
Tell the bar, keep me safe.
Well, never.
Officer, taking a rest from witch hunting. Greetings, Your Honour. Good to see you again.
Mutant!
Bet you're sweaty in all that armour.
Why you care?
Wouldn't you rather sweat on me?
Sleep, sleep.
How are we to fight a pestilence that...
Me a little.
Your arsehead grey too.
No lollygagging. Fall upon your knees before the eternal fire!
Eternal fire walk with you.
Officer, taking a rest from witch hunting. Greetings, Your Honour. Good to see you again.
You'll look fucking amazing. Bet you're sweaty in all that armour.
Why you care?
Wouldn't you rather sweat on me?
Something's dead.
Stop going there after they sold me.
Mine's more expensive.
Our Novigrad!